Hey, welcome to Wellness Farm Chat. I'm Brooke, your host, and here we'll be chatting about all things homesteading, farming, and wellness. If you are new to this lifestyle or are looking for simple and easy steps to begin your wellness journey, you are in the right place. Hey, welcome to the show, Eryn. I'm so glad you're here. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to chat.
Yeah, so I found Eryn's podcast, I want to say 7 months. No, not even like 5 months ago. I was like painting my house and I needed a new podcast and I found you and then I couldn't stop listening to you. So,
Aw.
yes, I asked you to come on and share your story because you have a beautiful story of moving. And yes, so please tell me or us all about your homesteading journey and you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. I was honestly listening to your podcast about the ducks and the sponges, and I was like, I need to get some of those. Those are so cool. I've never tried them. So they're on my list now to get. But I am Eryn Whalen from Whalen Farms, and I have lived in the country basically all my life. My parents grew up on farms. My grandpas were loggers. I did a brief stint in town when I married my husband. He is a Seattle boy. So he was born and raised in Seattle, no farm, no nothing. They did do some hunting. So we had kind of that experience. And then he married me. And I don't know, like I was just having in your 20s, you're getting married. There's just so much going on that we moved into the city. It was the best place for us at the time. And I wasn't sure if I wanted to come back to the farm life. Like I thought maybe I'd be happy there. But that was pretty
Yeah.
quickly, like I realized probably not going to happen. And so we stayed into our first house for probably about like 8 years. Then we moved out to, it was still in a neighborhood, but it had half an acre. Through this whole time I had chickens. So like one of the very first things was we fenced our backyard. We got a dog and I said, I have grown up with chickens my whole life. I love them. And so we will have them. And so we bought this it was like a big dog house that we found on like Craigslist or something. And we sectioned it off. My husband like cut the top off and made it like a top door and everything. And we got just it was a tiny chicken coop with a tiny little run. And it probably held like 3 chickens.
How many
And so
chickens?
3 to 4 chickens. And so we had those for the
Aw.
first, at our first house. And it was so funny because my grandma, she's way into birds. So she's had like chickens, emus, rheas, ostriches, like she's had all the birds.
Oh
Anything
my
with feathers,
goodness.
my grandma said she loved. And so
I want
whenever
to
I
be
had,
like her.
yes. And whenever I had issues with birds or they stopped laying, I would just give her those and I would take her birds that were laying and she just let me go back and forth, which was nice. I had
What a beautiful grandma. Oh my goodness.
yes, she was all anytime she could help anyone else have chickens, she was
Aw.
into that. So, and then probably about a year or so before we moved, we weren't quite sure we were going to, and so my husband upgraded and built this huge, beautiful coop. I mean, it wasn't huge, but it held about 12 birds, so like way upgrade from
Well,
my
that's
three
good.
one. And we made a big outdoor area. I got ducks when I was in town, so my neighbors, bless them, they had to deal with the ducks and the chickens. They never complained though. We were very good neighbors. I'm just gonna say.
I never got complaints with my ducks either when we had like a different house. And I totally thought we would. Like I
But they're
totally
so
thought people were
cute.
gonna like I was gonna see it on the Facebook
Oh my God.
page
On
of
those
where
Facebook
we and
pages,
I'm like
those are,
looking every day. I'm like, no one's complaining.
oh my gosh. Well, because ducks are adorable. There's got to be something wrong with you if you don't like a sweet little duck, right?
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
had the ducks in the garden.
Well, you know what I would do? I would go for walks and I would give people free eggs. Just
See,
and like let them know. I'm like, oh, we have duck eggs too. So if anyone like complained, they would be like, oh, that's the girl that has the ducks and she gives
a
us
little
free
friendly
eggs. So we
bribery
like
goes a long way.
yeah. So I'm like, the first person I see on my walk gets a free dozen eggs. So
Oh, that's awesome. Yes. So we did that, and then we ended up moving to a half an acre in kind of an older neighborhood right below what we call Green Bluff in Spokane, Washington, which is just this huge, they have tons of fruit trees, tons of orchards, tons of farmlands. We were right on the bottom of that in a nice big neighborhood. We had just built that chicken coop and I said, we're not leaving this behind because no one is going to love it as much as we love it.
oh,
So we got all of our guy
no.
friends, we picked that coop up and we took it to our new place. We did leave it there, obviously, we're moving across the country, but it was a good coop. And then
Hey,
let
when
me
we
see, we lived.
moved,
Oh, yeah.
no,
Oh,
no,
tell me.
Brandon built our coop. That was so it was able to be lifted up when we moved. But then the people who wanted a house wanted the coop and the chickens, a few chickens. So yeah, he had plans to bring it with us because it was so beautiful too. And the people, it was like in our contract, the coop has to stay.
Oh my gosh. Well, you know why though? Because the coops they sell at the stores are not as good. They do not hold up long term. And so they probably saw that one. They're like, this is a keeper, so we're going to have it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then we were at our last house for about 4 years, and I just got this nudge probably about 2 years in that we needed to move, and it was it was a total God thing. I was having coffee one morning, and I was standing and looking out my front windows, and I just felt this. I just felt him literally say like, "It's time to go," which was so weird because I had
Wow.
never once thought of moving outside of Washington, outside of where we were. Like we were very happy where we were. Um, but it was placed there, and so it was a 2-year process of kind of deciding. Well, the first year process was basically getting my husband on board because I was like, I think we need to move, and my husband is like, you are crazy. He's like, this house and everything we have is what we want. Like we live in a great neighborhood, we bought the crappiest house in the neighborhood, fixed it up. We kind of felt like we were imposters, like we probably didn't even deserve to be there, but we were. And so it was
Aw.
just kind of this thing of we have everything, but it wasn't what we were supposed to have or where we were supposed to be. And
Mhm.
that's so countercultural, right? Like you got everything, you're in this
Yeah.
nice neighborhood, there's like kind of status that goes along with that. But I just felt like it wasn't where we were supposed to be. And as I prayed about it, and it's so funny because I was talking to all my friends, because pretty much everyone we know is from there. I have some family in Texas and Oklahoma, but not a ton. It's mostly centered in Spokane, Washington. And everyone was just like, you're not going to do it. You're not going to go. It's not going to happen. But there's just so much prayerfulness. And I remember almost probably about a year and a half in, my husband called me from a business trip, and he was, I believe, in Denver, Colorado. He was somewhere on business, and he was like, I get it now. We need to go. He was like, I feel like we have to go. And he said,
Oh,
so, do
wow.
what you want to do. Let's go. And so we were originally looking at Texas. Um, but the more kind of we prayed about it, the more we talked to people, we kind of settled on Tennessee. Texas is very hot, which I kind of thought I wanted, but also we really do enjoy the seasons. We enjoy the summers and the falls and winter. Not so much winter. We're not huge winter people, but the nice thing about Tennessee is it is seasonal. You do have the most gorgeous falls
Mhm.
here. In the Pacific Northwest, there's so many evergreen trees, but here almost all the trees are leaf trees, and so they most of them lose their leaves
Okay.
in the fall, and so it's just this whole display of color, and it's just simply gorgeous. Um, and so we looked for property. I feel like I'm just chatting. Is there anything you want me to clarify or anything, or
No,
just keep
no,
going?
go for it. No, this is what I'm like, I wanted to know why Tennessee, so go, tell me.
Okay. And so I had been to Nashville probably about when Evelyn was really little. So a few years before that, me and my sister went for a conference in July. So it was like the hottest time. And I was like, it's not bad there. It's totally fine. And Travis, my husband, bless his soul, he was like, if you like it there, that's fine. And I was like, well, do you feel like we need to go or you need to see anything? And he was like, I can do whatever. It's okay. He was like, wherever you want to go. And so then the next part was I told him, I was like, okay, well, here's the deal. I was like, I want to buy 100-year-old house or older. And he was like, really, Eryn? And I said,
He's
yes.
like,
I said,
so much work.
oh, yes. And so I'm the dreamer and he's very much the realist. And so that's why we work good together because he brings me down from the clouds a lot. But sometimes he can be a little bit Debbie Downer. So I'm there to be like, it's going to be okay. It's all
I think our husbands need to be friends because Brandon is so by the book. Like he has his like lists and he has like he's so organized and he thinks through everything. And I'm like, no, we just gotta do it and then we'll figure it out as we go and it won't be so much fun. And he's like, that's not fun for me. And I'm like,
oh my gosh,
"Oh."
it's so
Yeah, so he does bring me down to earth daily, daily.
Travis is the same with like lists and instructions. I refuse to read instructions because if I can't figure it out myself, then it's not worth doing. And Travis is like, well, did you read the instructions? And I was like, no. But he always does. He reads the instructions
He's
like
like, what do you think? That's so
But yeah, so
funny.
I told him I wanted a really old house. because I just felt, one, I love the character of old houses. I love what they give, how they feel, that there's just nothing else quite like them, like they're their own little person. And I didn't want to, and everyone is different. So, like, nothing to anyone who decides not to, but I didn't want to add to the noise. I wanted to take something that was broken and fix it up and make something better, which I feel like is very much my
Yeah,
personality, anyhow, is like, let's make it better. Let's fix this. Very much a problem solver. Um, and
that's
I
really
don't really
good
like to be
quality to
good,
have.
right? I think so.
It's a
So,
great quality, especially in marriage.
yeah, oh, I think so. So,
Yeah, no, it's great.
so he was fine with that. He was like, okay, well, if that's what you want to do, because he is very much like, he is really good with woodworking and things like that. He always says like, I'm not a carpenter, I'm not a carpenter. But then he built this table I'm sitting at. So, and he built our chicken coop. So I always just call his bluff, and he usually figures it out.
He's modest.
He goes to this, I can't do it. Let me YouTube it. Okay, let me figure this out. So it's his
Yeah.
creative process. So we started looking, and I was able to get into actually through Zillow. I got in contact with my realtor, which it took a few realtors because I think that most of them didn't really believe that I was actually coming. And I started messaging them about 6 months out, just about houses and stuff, because I really wanted to get a grasp on what's reasonable, what's available, how's the market over there,
Mhm.
because the market in Washington was absolutely crazy. So I knew if we listed our house, when we did list our house, we got an offer. We got 3 offers the first day. It was insane. And so I knew when
Wow.
we listed our house, it would go quick. And so I wanted to know kind of how the market was over here. And so finally, we got a realtor that would work with us, and she was really willing to do it. Super nice lady. And she just started sending us houses and sending us houses. And the only thing was, with my husband's job, he could transfer, but we had to be so close to a certain city that had what he does in it. And so that kind of limited our choices, but we let her know. But we weren't set on like the western side or middle Tennessee or east. We were just kind of like, anywhere in Tennessee is fine. It just has to be close to somewhere that my husband can transfer to. And so that was a really great blessing. And we weren't sure like 100% that they would take his transfer. So that was kind of the risk. Is the company said,
Mm.
most likely we'll take you because we've invested so much time into you, because he's been working with the company for 20 years. But they're like, it'll just depend on when you get there if we have a spot for you or not. So it was a complete leap of faith of, we hope it's going to work out. And thankfully
Mhm.
it did.
Yes.
It was a risk that it could fall through. Um, so that was
Yeah.
kind of fun.
Oh.
But we
I
found this.
I actually thrive on those types of risks.
Really?
I enjoy, yeah, like, I'm from Ontario, and I left Ontario by myself with a suitcase and landed in British Columbia with somebody. It's like, I had no idea he was picking me up at the airport. There was just some guy with a sign and taking me to this, like, camp that I was gonna live at for, like, 3 months, and it was the best time of my
Oh my
life.
goodness. Okay, you're braver
Yeah.
than me then. That's crazy. So did you go back, or did you end up staying?
I stayed, yeah, I fell in love with BC in the mountains, and I'm from, like, the flat city, and
Huh?
yeah, so and then I met my husband. I was, like, praying, I'm like, "God, please let me meet a man out here so I never have to go back, it's so beautiful."
That is
And then I met my
definitely a
husband.
leap of faith. Look at you. That's amazing. That's
Yeah, it
crazy.
was really, really fun. It was the best time of my life, I think. Yeah.
See, so okay, so that's a word for anybody who's out there listening to this. It's like, it's okay to take chances. It's okay to
Yeah.
prayerfully consider something and then go for it. Not always is God going to
And
put
then, like, I
aside.
had to trust God completely because I had, like, no job, no money. And, yeah, I was just like, "All right, lead the way, and I'll do whatever you want."
Oh, there was a saying sometime that if you plan everything out, you can't let God work miracles, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's it's so true. So, okay,
It's
yeah. So anyhow,
so,
so we
so
found
true.
this house. We found this house, and we saw it originally, but it was a little bit outside of our budget, because we were leaving everything. We wanted to make sure that we purchased and still had a little bit. Like, we did take
Mhm.
a small loan out on the house, but we wanted enough extra so that if my husband didn't have his job or anything happened, that we had enough to live on for a while until we figured out what we were doing. And so the house was a little
Yeah.
bit above that. We were like, okay, we're not going to do it. But then a
Mhm.
week later, my realtor sent us the same house, and she's like, they dropped it $15,000. And so we're like, okay. And but the
Oh.
pictures of it was very bad. Like, someone took blurry, horrible photos. And so you just really couldn't get a good
Why do
idea.
they do that? There's like, I don't understand how the people can do that.
Seriously, our phones nowadays are amazing. Like, you don't even have to be a photographer, but I think it was because it was so rural. They couldn't get anybody out here, and someone just they ate
Oh,
chips or
true.
something and took a picture with grease on their phone. I don't know. Anyhow, so she had someone who was a local realtor here. She actually lived a few hours away. She had a local realtor come here and like take video, but it was still kind
Okay.
of grainy and not the best. And we're just like, it was the perfect price, and it came with 120 acres, which originally our goal was to have at least 15 or 20 because we knew we wanted livestock at some point in time. We knew we wanted
Mhm.
more than just chickens. And so, but 120 acres was pretty wild. And so we're like, there's so much capacity to be able to do things on there. It's
There's
pretty
so
much all
much.
forest. Yeah, it's mostly all forest. And so we're like, let's make an offer on it.
That's a dream
And
for
our
us.
forest,
Yeah, well, just
well,
having like 100 acres and
gosh, yeah.
forest. Like Brandon loves cutting down trees. So he would have so much fun.
If you want to have vacation and come down and cut some trees and help us get firewood, you just let us know. We'll fly you on down here. um, so it's so many trees, so much trees. Um, But we made an offer on the house contingent on the homeowner's inspection. So we decided that we would fly down and meet the inspector here at the house, and that once the inspection was done, if he found anything that was structural, anything that had issues, then that was our chance to back out. And we were only out the trip down, and we could pull out our deposit and everything else because of this report. And so we flew down before we listed our house. So this is all happening before we listed our house because we knew our house would sell quickly. So it was all contingent on our house selling. And so we came down
Mhm.
here, looked at the house, no termites, no anything like that. The guy was like, it's got good bones, but she needs a lot of work. And he wasn't lying. And I think like Travis walked through and he was like, this house is gonna fall down. And I was like, no, she said it's got good
Don't
bones. I was
say
like, we have a lot of work, but it's okay. And he's like, okay, if this is what you want to do. And so I literally had a panic attack that night because we flew into Nashville, drove out,
Mhm.
and saw the house the very next day, then turned back around that same day, drove all the way back to Nashville, and flew out the next morning. So it was literally like a day and a half that we were here. Excuse me,
Oh,
which is just
wow.
insane. And so that night we were in the hotel in Nashville, this crummy hotel, pouring down rain. There's tornado warnings all over the place. And I woke up in the middle of the night and I literally had a panic attack. And I was like, Travis, you have to like grab
Aw.
me or hold me or something. I'm like, I'm shaking. I don't know what to do. Because
Yeah.
he's like, well, whatever you want to do, hon, whatever you want to do, which just was a lot because I'm like, but if I want to do this, then I feel solely responsible for us coming down here because you're just like, let's do it, you know? But anyhow, we did. We did do it. And so we sold our house. We moved down here. Actually, though, the last crazy part of this whole thing, I feel like I don't know if this is interesting to anybody or not, but it's a lot of faith. Okay. It's just
I
a
love
lot of
it.
faith. On the way down, we, our company, our loan company for our house dropped us because the appraiser of our house said that our house was structurally unsound and that the house wasn't worth anything and that our loan should just be for the land. So he basically said the house is trash. Don't even loan for the house. So it just needs to be torn down and you just need to buy the land. And
No
so the
way.
loan, it was wild. And so the loan company was like, well, we're not going to loan on this house. And so they backed out. So we already sold our house.
Aw.
Everything was packed up. We already had all of our stuff in a train on the way across the country. My kids were staying at my parents' house and they were going to fly them down after we signed papers. So it was me and my husband, our St. Bernard, our 3 cats, and he was pulling his car, his like classic car. I had the SUV with all the animals. We're driving across the country to a house that might no longer be ours. And so
Oh.
I think we were like in Billings, Montana. We were somewhere in Montana in an Airbnb. And I was just like sobbing. I was like, what are
Aw.
we going to do? Like, we might not even get this house. What are we going to do? You know, it was so much. And I was
Aw.
like, now we're going to have to invest in a rental and we're going to have to, so that's more money out of our pocket. And so we're just playing all these things through. But we were able to find another company, my realtor. She's amazing because I wouldn't have been able to do it. I would have just at that point in time curled up in a little ball and just shoved myself in the corner of a room and just cried for a couple days. But my realtor, she was like,
Aw,
well, let's
that's so
find
sad.
was devastating. So I'm like, look at all this faith we showed, and now we don't have a house. But she found a company who does like farm loans and rural loans and things like that. And so we were able to work with them and get a loan secured through them. It took longer than we anticipated, so we did have to stay at a couple Airbnbs. We had to bounce back and forth all over the place
Wow.
until we were able to secure the loan and sign all the papers and everything. But we did get in the house, and so
So did it
that
take
was
like a couple months?
so by the
Did it take
time,
a couple
so
months?
we signed papers. No, we signed papers, and it was about when we got down here. So it was about a month between signing the papers and coming down. And then once we were down here, we were in an Airbnb for probably almost an additional week longer than we thought we were going to
Okay.
be. So it wasn't
That's not
horrible.
too bad.
No, not too bad at all.
Still
Like it all worked
scary.
out really good. It was so scary, but it did work out pretty quick once we figured everything out. Yeah. So that was how we got down here. And that was April of, it'll be 2 years this coming April that we have been down in Tennessee. That's my
Congratulations. Oh
story.
my goodness, that's so exciting. And your house looks beautiful, so you've done a lot of work. If you haven't checked out her Instagram, her house is gorgeous now.
Oh my gosh, we have so much work. So I show the parts that we've done. So we like did the shower because we only have one bathroom here, which I mean, we had three bathrooms at our old house. And so going to three
Wow.
to one and the shower insert, you guys, this is how bad the house was. The shower insert was cracked in the middle. And so you couldn't actually stand in the middle of the shower. So you had to take a foot and put on each side of the shower and rotate around without actually standing in the middle, or it would break through and you would literally fall through the floor. And that was our one shower. So
Oh my
it was
goodness.
bad. And so we fixed
So
that
that was like
first.
the first thing to replace.
Yes. Oh, and once I literally cried the first time we were in our nice shower because it's the one shower we have. And so I'm like, I'm gonna make it beautiful. And I tiled it myself. My brother-in-law flew down for Christmas holiday and he does tile and grouting. And so he did the pan for me. And then I video chatted him the whole time and I was cutting the tiles and doing everything. And so oh my gosh, is everything
Yeah, what's
okay?
happening?
Yeah, that was so um
It was like
so
fireworks behind you and your screen.
it was weird. It was excited for me, I guess. I got to take a shower. I was excited too. It was about 6 months of no showering and just bathing. And I am not a bath. Yes. And so
I have no idea what happened there, but okay.
that's hilarious. But we've got a roof on
Um,
since then. And our next project is we're tearing out the kitchen flooring because that's also rotted through. And if you jump at the kitchen sink, you probably also could fall through our floor. So flooring is next, which is so exciting. And then after that, it'll pretty much be like just fixing little things. All the really, really big stuff is done, which will be such an answer to prayer. I cannot wait.
so does your husband, is he able to do flooring and like all this stuff? Like, is he really, really good at that stuff, or does you guys hire somebody?
So we pretty much do everything ourselves. And my husband would be the first to say that he is not good at any of that, which I think is a lie, but he didn't grow up doing that kind of stuff. But he is such a fast learner. And my brother-in-law actually does do tile
Mhm.
and flooring. And so he has been able to just kind of instruct and help a lot as far as giving tips. And my brother-in-law actually helped us install our flooring in our last house. And so we learned a lot that way because we knew we probably have to do it again someday. So we were like, teach us your ways so we know. And so we're going to attempt it
Yeah.
ourselves at this house. But I've like tried my hand at tiling. We've done a lot of that. And I think it's just knowing that it might not be as good as what a professional would do, but it's your heart and it's your soul that you put into it. And
Hmm.
you did that, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah.
And the whole thing's a learning process, which we wanted this to be. We wanted this place to be our
Hmm.
hands put to it as much as possible. And so someone else could probably do it better, but I think we do a pretty decent job.
I like tile. Like we have to do a backsplash in our kitchen because our kitchen it's not done yet, and I'm curious. I have some ideas, so I need to
Yes.
get my
Honestly,
hands
tiling
dirty.
is it's so much easier than you think. Honestly, you have to get a good tile cutter, but besides that, like you can do it. Nothing is like it's so easy to fix and change things.
Yeah, I have to learn and stuff. But then Brandon's like, I'll do it. So he kind of takes over. He's doing shelves for me right now. He's doing some
Nice.
floating wooden shelves, and they're almost done. So he's like, I'm tired of bending down into the cupboard to get a plate. And I'm like, soon. And whenever you're
Right?
yeah. So
Yeah, and then the house only
yeah,
one
he's
further,
really
right?
good.
Well, because we have this, and then just like you, so you guys are looking into getting a cow possibly, and we're looking into getting one as well. And so it's like doing the inside stuff and then the outside stuff too. Because so we have birds, we had pigs over the summer, we butchered those. So right now we're just back in birds again, but we're trying to get everything ready for a Jersey cow, which means fencing and outbuildings. And so we're gonna throw all those together too.
Oh man, it's so exciting. It's really fun. Like I was really antsy the past few days, and you've probably seen in my stories. I was like standing outside looking at one of my fences, and I'm like, I saw my German Shepherd just went and grabbed a piece of the fence and just ripped it off. And I'm like, no, it's not that easy. So then I'm like, come on, kids, we're going to daddy's shop and we're grabbing a hammer. And then I got a hammer and I just started hitting this fence and everything was just falling down. And I'm like, this is fun. I'm like, I like, tearing down a fence. And then it just escalated. And then I'm like, what about that fence? That needs to go.
Well, and if you
And then my
can tear it
husband
down,
came home
there's no
from
way
work.
it's keeping a cow in.
I know, right? And Brandon already had plans, but then I'm like, oh, I can help. I can do this. And then we just started doing it. And then I just kept finding more things to take apart. And like, yeah, Brandon came home from work and he's like, am I going to wake up and everything's going to be down? And I'm like, we'll see. We'll see. I am 34 weeks pregnant, so we'll see.
Oh my goodness. So you're like on the tail end of it there. You're almost to the finish
Yeah,
line. And
I
this is
know. I'm
your
so excited.
third,
Fourth, my
fourth.
fourth.
Oh my goodness. That's so exciting.
Yeah, so it's funny. I'm doing my first home birth here because I finally like we just
Yay.
moved and we finally have a bathtub where I can sit in it and like move around.
I
So
did the
I'm actually
blow
thinking about
seal with
having
Evelyn.
Brandon won't let me get the pool in the house. He thinks it's gonna break the floor. He
Oh
had his
my goodness.
dad and then our friends like scare him about the pool with water in it, and he's like, Brooke, no, it's gonna ruin. You're gonna fall through the floor while you're pushing out a baby. I'm like,
I never
no.
heard of that. But the
But I'm
tub
like,
is
you're
good too.
lucky we have a jacuzzi tub.
Yeah, my tub it was way too small. That was not even an option.
Yeah, so I'm actually gonna get Brandon to come on and like, because he's kind of nervous about me having the baby at home because it's our first time, and I want him to share his thoughts on my podcast and do an episode of how he feels, and then afterwards, like now, how do you feel after we did it?
Oh, that would be such a fun podcast. Because, yeah, Travis and my mom were both very against it at the beginning and they were not on board. But I had such a bad experience with my son at the hospital that it wasn't so much like, yes, it was because I thought it was health. I mean, I guess I thought it was better for us, but I was just mad at the medical system. And I was like, I can do this without you. Like, not without you, because
Yeah.
I had a home birth team and everything. Like, I wasn't by myself, but without the traditional medical team, I was like, no
Yeah.
thanks. It was a horrible experience. So, and it went great. I loved it. So I'm going to be praying for
Yeah.
you that it just goes super smoothly.
Aw. Me too. I'm so excited. Yeah. So Brandon's just like, you better not go into labor doing all this like preparing for your
Oh my
cow.
goodness. And the
I'm like,
recovery is so much better. Like I was up and walking around and everything with like, it didn't even happen. My husband kept saying, sit down, Eryn, you just had a baby. And I was like, I feel great.
it might be our personality types. Yeah.
It very well could be. Yeah. But
Okay, so
I would
you're
totally tune
planning
into
for a
that
cow.
episode. Yeah.
It's so funny. Okay, so you're preparing for a cow. Are you gonna get horses? Because I remember listening to one of your episodes, and you used to ride, right?
Yes. So I did a lot of barrel racing, 4-H, all that kind of stuff.
Oh
I
wow.
loved it. But horses, like I will be honest, even having horses growing up, like horses are expensive and they have the least give back. They're more like a pleasure item versus something that strategically you use. And so, yes, we do want to have it because Evelyn is very set on riding. And so we're thinking of probably getting a pony at
Aw.
first, having her be able to play with that. I grew up first on a naughty little pony. It was always trying to get me off, but it gives you really good leg, control and everything. You figure out how to stay on. And then we go from there. Plus, it'd be a good little addition to the cow and everything else. So, yes, that is in the works. But the
Oh.
next animal that will be setting foot here will be a dairy cow. I'm done now. It's been 2 years, and I was just so sure I'd have one before now. So she's the next addition.
Aw.
I'm ready for her. And then after that, we'll go from there and probably add a pony this year or next. So yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so excited for you. That's what we want to do because I keep telling my 3-year-old daughter, I'm like, hey, so when we were purchasing our house, there was horses here. And so whenever we pull in, they're like, where are the horses? And I'm like, you got to talk to your father about that. I'm wondering the same thing. So whenever we're driving,
Oh my God.
Ezra's like, Daddy, where's my horse? And I'm like, yes, Daddy, where's her horse?
Right.
It's so cute. So I'm training her. I want her to be a crazy horse girl. So both my girls.
It's so fun. Especially if you like them too.
Yeah.
Then it's just like you get to just kind of relive it again, your childhood, or if you wanted that in your childhood through
Yeah.
your daughter. So it's really fun.
I know. And we have a riding arena down below. And I'm like, this is
Oh,
perfect.
stop.
They could do vaulting.
Oh
Yeah.
my
And
God.
I don't know. But the way the world's going, I want them to be horse crazy. If
Right?
anything, I want them to have animals that they just love and they can just ride, like my daughters. Yeah.
Honestly, I told my husband, so we have a lot of Amish around here. And I was like, I hate cars anyhow because cars are a pain in the butt. They break down all the time. I was like, I will literally just become like the Amish. Just get me a buggy and a horse. We don't live that far from town. I'll do that.
Do you
That
see
will give
that
me more
often?
pleasure than a car. Yes.
Do
Yeah.
you
We
see
have
a lot
quite
of
a
like
few
horse and
Amish
buggies?
Yes.
That's so funny.
Isn't that fun? Yeah.
Oh, I would love to see that. That's so funny. That's
We have a
cool.
lot of Amish communities around here. It's very cool.
They must have really good food.
Yes, there's so many
Like
all
they
over
probably have a cow.
Tennessee. Oh gosh, sure.
Yeah.
And they sell a lot of their
Be-
stuff at the farmers markets in the summertime and things like
Oh,
that. They
cool.
do a lot of produce and stands and stuff. So yeah, they're pretty big over here.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love the farmers market. So would you if you have a cow, are you allowed to sell milk or are you allowed to like give it away? Like do you have rules in Tennessee?
We do. So there's loopholes in Tennessee, but it is illegal to sell raw milk in Tennessee, which in Washington state it was not. So here you can
Yeah.
sell pet milk, which pet milk though you have to have, I believe, you have to submit something through the state, whereas most people here do a herd share. So a herd share is
Mhm.
essentially you're purchasing into the share of cows, so you own the cows as well. So it's not really selling milk. It's almost like you're purchasing part of the herd of cows and you get milk from that herd every month. So it's an easy
Mhm.
workaround. And the herd share is
Yeah.
like I think my herd share was a $10 buy-in, and my gallons of milk are $8 a gallon, which is a pretty decent price. So that's what I've been
That
doing
is a
at a
good price.
little. Yeah, I've been doing that. They're about 30 minutes away, which it is kind of an effort to go get it every week for me. It's worth
Yeah.
it, but it will be so much nicer when I can have, because I mean, I'm already we make sour cream, we make butter, we make yogurt, like, and I don't usually do the butter as much because I run out. So like I just can't wait to get the cow because I already utilize so much, you know?
Yeah. Well, we're like the exact same then, because I'm a part of a herd share, but I'm not getting enough milk because there's so many members. And I actually
Oh,
was in the States last weekend and I didn't know. So I can bring raw milk across the border
that
and
is so
consume
cool.
it
And I
here.
had no idea. I would think that you wouldn't be able to do that. So that's fascinating
Well,
to
and
me.
that's funny because I'm like, how much can I bring? So I can bring like a certain amount of money worth across the border and drink it. And it's in Washington, and that's where you're from. So there's no rules in Washington, I don't believe.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's funny because it's like I showed up to this farm and I like pull in and like the dogs come out, but no dogs bark. And I'm like, please bark and let somebody know I'm here. And they're really friendly. And then I was standing there, and then some guy showed up, and I'm like, so how do I get the milk? And he's like, oh, you just walk into the garage. It's in a fridge, and you put your money in the jar. And I'm like, no way. This is so
I
fun. It's
love
like
that.
not like this in Canada. No one lets you just walk into their garage and put money in a jar.
There's so many people that do that in the States. So it's just like a honor system where they
Yeah.
have the little thing and you just put the money in and just grab it and go. It's crazy.
Yeah. I love it. So I'm like, if I do cross the border with this though, and they ask me how much I spent, there's not like a receipt or anything. So I'm like, yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
That's so fascinating.
Yeah,
It's
I'm
crazy how
curious.
every place is different.
I know, but I'm allowed to bring it across. Dairy and eggs, but, like, just a certain amount, but you can't bring meat. Yeah, there's so many, like, loopholes, and then I'm like, "Brandon, I just need a cow because I can't be going 2 different places to get my milk." But I need it,
Right? You're
like,
like,
this
okay,
pregnancy,
let's
I've been
break
just
it down.
craving it.
I'm spending so much on gas and this and this and this versus just having one here. And especially if you have pasture where you can do pasture rotation, then you're not doing as much hay and everything else. And
Yeah.
so there's a lot of ways I feel like to be able to keep a cow pretty efficiently. It's just the biggest,
Oh, yeah.
the fencing and the area to milk and all that kind of stuff. But once you have those core things down, I feel like it's just maintenance.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, like, I have a list of all the things we need, like, we'll need another fridge, like, in the basement, like, or, like, where we walk in, and then, like, the jars, the milking equipment. I think once we get all that stuff, it won't be as
Wait, are you
expensive.
going to try to
It's
sell too? Are you going to wait, you can't
I'm not
sell.
allowed
Wait,
to
how
sell. No,
Oh,
but I can give
wait.
it away. We can barter.
And you could do a herd share then, yeah, if you wanted to?
If I want, I
Okay,
don't think we have the so our property is not very big, it's only about 4 acres,
okay.
and, we couldn't do pasture, so I think our dream is to have a bigger I want, like, a house like yours. Like, I want a farmhouse that I can just, like, fix up and then have, like, 100 acres. So that is
Wait,
my
you're on your
dream,
way.
but I don't see that happening. Yeah, it's expensive. I think in Canada, the housing market is crazy. Like, we got a deal on
Yeah,
this house. Like, this house is worth way more than what we purchased it for. And they sold it to us because they liked us, and they wanted a
that's
family in
so
the house.
sweet. Well, see, there's a
Yeah.
will, there's a way. A lot of people do
Yeah.
sell based on emotion. And so you might be able to find another good deal too. That was one of the reasons we left
Yeah,
too,
that's
because what we wanted, I mean, to purchase even this rundown house in Washington State would have been easily over $500,000, like easily.
wow.
And
Yeah,
so I didn't want to afford what we have here there. So we moved.
yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. It's so crazy, like yeah. Even our
But
last
if you
house,
love
which was
the
so
area and you
small.
don't want to leave, then you have to figure out other loopholes.
Yeah. No, it's true. But I think we're gonna spend at least I said, like, 10 years here max, because I want more children, and I don't know if they'll all fit in this house. And I do
Well,
want
no,
more
just keep going
animals, like,
until
I
you
just
max out the house space.
that's what we did with the last one, and when I found out I was pregnant so I found out I was pregnant the day after we saw this house. And I'm like, "Now we really need this house," because it's like
Mhm.
a 3-bedroom house in the last one, and the bedrooms were like the size of a closet. And I'm like,
Oh,
"We
wow.
can't have 4 kids in this house." So then I'm like, it got stressful.
Well, that's amazing. Well, I can't wait to see what you do with it while you're there because 10 years is a long
Thanks.
time. I'm sure it's going to be fabulous. And then you'll probably make a
Yeah.
good old chunking off of that house to be able to do your next dream. So,
Oh, I think so. I think so. The market is crazy, so I feel like every year the value goes up so much. It's
yeah.
crazy. Yeah. Okay, so you're gonna get a pony for your daughter, and I think we're doing the same stuff. I think we're very
Honestly,
similar with
it does
animals.
feel exactly like that. Just across a ways away, 2,000 miles away.
Yeah. Okay, so so did you go do Tennessee because of your husband's work? Like what like pushed you? Is it God or like tell me.
Yeah, so his where he works there, it pretty much is all over the United States. So it was mostly like where we felt more comfortable at and where we wanted to be.
Okay.
And I wanted a state that held values that we held that was similar. And also, like I said, the seasons. And then I don't know, like we were looking at all over the place. And there was the plains
Okay.
that were very different. And then there's here's which it's funny how many people when I tell them Tennessee, they assume it's like Texas, which I think is really funny because Texas is very flat mostly and
And
it's
hot.
extremely hot versus Tennessee we have the Smoky Mountains, we have the Appalachian
Yeah.
Trail, we have all of that. And so East Tennessee from West Tennessee is pretty significantly different. Like East Tennessee has the huge mountain ranges. You get a lot more snow over there, things like that. Versus
Okay.
us, we have on this side, definitely we're more tornado prone, but it's not flat. Like it's very much rolling hills. It's very beautiful. We don't have the
Oh,
mountain
that's so
range
nice.
like we had in the Pacific Northwest, but it's a different kind of beautiful. But I think it's stunning here. Like I know everyone
Oh,
can say different
that's
things,
so nice.
but our falls here are some of the I would think some of the prettiest falls, like comparable to
Wow.
Vermont and things like that. When you think of fall, it's gorgeous. The humidity is
Oh,
a little
that's so
something
cool.
to get used to. But yeah, we just kind of felt this was where we were supposed to be. And, everyone is always, how did you end where you end? And I said, well, it was a God thing. We prayed. We thought Texas, we felt pulled away from there. And then several people
Mhm.
just started bringing up Tennessee. And so we looked into it and we were like, yeah, we feel like this is where this kind of checks all the boxes for us. And I feel like we'll be
Yeah.
comfortable here. We really have been. So,
Oh, that's so great. Oh, I love that. Yeah, and we're similar. I think we came here because I didn't have family, and Brandon grew up in this area, and that's where his family was. And his thing was he wanted to he went to Vancouver, in British Columbia, and he went there to like go to school and find a job. And then I guess a common thing out here is you leave your small little town, and then you find a wife and you bring her back, and that's what I guess that's what you do when you come from a small town.
get some new blood.
Yeah, so but yeah, there's too many relatives.
Oh my gosh. That's
So, and
awesome.
then he's like, "Are you like?" He brought me home, and then he's like, "Do you like it out here?" I'm like, "This is beautiful." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good. We can come out here." Yeah, it was funny, but
That's amazing. How long
I'm
have you
from
guys
like the
been married
city,
for
so
then?
it's so different. Pardon?
How long have you guys been married for?
7 years.
7 years. Oh, okay. Oh, that's like the perfect sweet spot. That's like when everyone's in their groove. You've got like a pattern, a
Yeah.
system. I love that. We'll be 14 years this year, which is
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah. Oh, it's fun. We've had a really the first few years were hard. I had some like health issues, but and that's what's kind of like sparked this whole homesteading and lifestyle. And now it's been like I'm just going. We're just not stopping.
There you go. Just keep
Yeah, it's
going.
beautiful. Yeah. Okay, so what has been like the biggest challenge for you with all of this? Like, is it the house stuff or waiting, preparing? Like, what is the hardest part for you?
I think at the beginning, the hardest part was working. It was being alone. So I mean,
Aw.
my mother and father actually live here now, as well as my brother. But
Wow.
that was never the plan. So when we moved here, it was never with the understanding that anyone was going to follow us. It was, if you
Wow,
choose to do
that's
this is
amazing.
on you. Yeah, and we have no guarantees that we're going to follow. And so it was a walk in faith. And so it was very lonely. And then also
No.
just like there's a lot of influx of new growth into Tennessee. And so it's very hard to find contractors and to find people to do stuff. And so when we moved here, our house had no heating and no air conditioning. So someone
Wow.
had stolen all of the ductwork and everything out of the house. And so there was a fireplace
No.
in yeah, so there's a fireplace in the living room, which when we came in April, it was still kind of cold. So we were able to do the fire and it heated up certain parts of the house fine. But we
Mm.
had, I mean, my husband, we can't do that. Like that's beyond our skill set is to install a
Yeah.
whole new ducting system and a heating and an AC. So we had to do that. And it was finding people who were willing to kind of squeeze us in between all these other jobs that they already had aligned. And so, I mean, we were
Yeah.
June in Tennessee when the humidity was 90 and it was over 100 degrees. And we had two small window units in two of the rooms. Like, I wanted to die. Like, it's like you couldn't you make food in the kitchen and it's hot, but you go outside and grill and it's also hot. So, I mean, it was rough there a little bit as far as that. And then we had to get our foundation worked on, and we had a guy who
Oh,
told us he
no.
was going to do it because the when we when we moved, the guy was like, "It's okay right now, but the side of your house is going to slough off if you don't get the foundation fixed." And so we're
Oh,
like, probably
no.
important we worked on that. Yeah. But the guy ended up, we waited for 10 weeks for him. And then he was messaging us up until the day of. Thank goodness we didn't give him any money, but he just no showed on the day. Never called me back, never messaged me, nothing. And so then we
Oh
had
my
to find
goodness,
someone
that's
else to do it.
awful.
It was very devastating because we were really looking forward to getting that fixed because it was like hanging over you that this is a structural thing that your house needs to fix. And because we're so rural,
Yeah.
it's very hard to get people out here to work on our house. And so we finally got that figured out. So it was just being alone, very overwhelmed with big projects that we had to get done. Like we couldn't do anything of the fun stuff the first year, which was very hard for
Mhm.
someone who's creative like us. I want to paint, I want to decorate, I want to do, but like all of our time and money had to be spent on these big things that until we did those, we couldn't do anything else. And so
Mhm.
that was there was probably like a little bit of depression and just anxiety the first year
Aw.
of overwhelm of everything. But
That's
I would tell
hard.
everybody after year one of moving, things feel so different. Like we found a church we loved, we found a community, we dug in. I think that's the thing I would give anybody is if you're moving or starting something new, like find community that you can lean into because doing it alone is really hard.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, luckily, I've been doing fun stuff this whole time since we moved, but I do want your situation because but yeah, it's not gonna be easy. And it's good to know
Okay, well,
that because I know a lot of
in
people
my
who buy the old
situation,
apartment.
you can call me and when I'll talk you through it, okay?
Like, I bought what you had, but it's really hard right now. Oh, yeah, that would be really challenging, and it's hard finding a church, and when you're new and you don't know people. I feel like we've
Yeah,
been here for 5 years now, and I wanna say in the last year, I finally found a church that, um, I feel connected to. And it's hard, it's so hard.
it is. You constantly have to put yourself outside of your comfort zone to try to find people
Mhm,
that you can finally feel comfortable with, but it takes a lot, and it's emotional. It's an emotional stress on you to put yourself
mhm,
constantly out there, feeling like you're judged and putting yourself in situations that
yeah.
to try to find your people, you know?
And
But
there's
it's worth
I
it.
I think there's so many churches, it's hard to pick one, like, you just have to go to, like, all of them. I feel like everywhere I look, there's a church, and I'm like, "Hey, so how." And I'm, like, not really, knowledgeable on denominations and stuff like that, and I'm just like, "Hey, let's go check out this one," and, like, oh, like, you have to learn about the church and the people and what they do, and everyone's different, so
That's so true.
yeah.
So when we were in Spokane, we went to Spokane Calvary, and it was a non-denominational Christian church. And so when you
Yeah.
come to the South, it's like Presbyterian, Baptist, like all these different kinds. And I'm like, I don't know. And so we found Baptist seems to line up most more to what we to our how we operate. And so I
Your
go to a
values.
Baptist church now.
Yeah, like, and I didn't really know either, and my husband was more knowledgeable on this stuff, and he had his like opinions and thoughts, but then we kind of just he would feel more comfortable with a certain church, and then I'm like, well, I don't feel like our kids, have friends, like we need to like make sure the childcare thing. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
just like it's a challenge sometimes, especially when you don't have a big city and you don't have a lot like, you know, bigger options. I feel like these are all small
Yeah.
churches that are kind of struggling still, and people come and go, so it's a little different.
Yeah.
But
You're right. The
I
the
noticed
kid
in the
part is
city.
yeah. Yeah,
Sorry.
because the kid part, like, our first church, there just wasn't a ton of children there, and because we homeschool anyhow and we're not involved in, like, a school system, it's very important for me to plug them in areas where I want them plugged in
Yeah.
at, and so that was kind of one of the reasons too, we're like, we want more kids for our kids to be able to,
Yeah.
you know, be able to have
Yeah.
forever friends.
Yeah, that was really important to us too. Okay, Erin, so we're gonna have to wrap this up, but can you please share where all the listeners can find you and follow you and everything else? So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So I just started my YouTube channel, which is just Whalen Farms. And then my website is Eryn Whalen Online. And so that's where I just kind of share a lot of recipes. I love to do gardening. I have a kitchen garden and a canning garden and all that stuff. So gardening kind of has my heart. And I'm super excited because this is the time of year where we start prepping our spring gardens. So I get to do all that.
Yay.
And then I'm also on Instagram, Eryn_Whalen_online. And my name is spelled Eryn. So if you type that in, I'm pretty much likely to pop up everywhere because that's not a common way
Yeah.
to spell Eryn. But yeah, I love Instagram. I love and hate it. I love sharing on there, and I love the community I have. It's very hard to grow on there. But then I'm also on my blog all the time. Oh, and I have a podcast too. So it's called
Yes.
Homestead Journey. Yeah.
And that's how I found you. I found you from your podcast and then I followed you on Instagram. So, yeah. You
I
never know
love it.
where
I'm just
people are
all
going to
over the
find you.
place, right? Right,
Yeah.
exactly. It's so, so true.
But I'm going to add all your stuff in the show notes so people can find you if they can't spell your name right. So, your stuff's all going to be in the show notes.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, it's
All right,
so
well,
fun to
thanks
talk to
so
you.
much for
For having me
joining.
on.
Yeah. This was so fun.
Definitely. We'll have to do it again. We'll have to do it like every year or so and just give updates on how everything's going.
Yes. Maybe we can do your birth story, your home birth story.
That would be so fun.
Yeah. All right. Bye. Thanks so much for joining me today. Please follow and subscribe to the show so you don't miss an episode. Also, if you could leave a quick review, that would mean so much to me. It is the only way I can truly know who is listening to this podcast and how you're benefiting from the show. See you next week.